Welcome to our the first, the last, the Nerdom. Today we're delving into the chilling world of Maxxxine, the latest horror sensation that's been haunting audiences. Join us as we unravel its eerie atmosphere, unsettling plot twist, and delve into what makes this film a must-watch for horror aficionados. I'm Tom. I'm here with Mike, as always. How you doing, Mike?
I am doing great. How about you?
I'm good. I'm
Good,
good.
good. Yeah,
Uh,
hey, we're back here this week. We this one is pretty cool. Long
mhm.
time coming for us.
Yep.
That
Yep. We
was
followed it along the way.
absolutely, yeah. We actually it actually saw our podcast here evolve too. And we used to do two for one.
Yeah,
Uh,
two first.
And then we realized, hey, maybe we don't have to do that. We give ourselves a little bit more time and go a little bit more in depth here.
We can breathe.
Absolutely, yeah,
But
yeah, absolutely. That and this is a capstone here
mhm,
on a trilogy actually too. But
mhm,
we'll tease that. We'll tease that before we get into the main event here. But before we do
mhm,
that, I'm going to do our bona fides and
mhm.
if I could get the thing to cooperate with me. Yeah, so we are the first, the last nerdom, like Tom said. Excellent intro, by the way.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, they say in the first 3 minutes you got to shoot your shot in YouTube
Mhm,
so people get in there. But we're a little bit longer form than that. But
mhm,
nevertheless, our main gig here is on our YouTube channel. You'll always find us here. We're at 4:30. Hopefully, we'll get a bounce one of these days. We
mhm,
do a live stream. We have a couple shorts out there, our videos as well. Want to highlight what you just finished out a book
Book
there.
series. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, we also
Yeah.
did our little dive in with AI music and did a little how to at the end.
Mhm.
And of course, we one of our favorite directors, creators here on the channel is Takashi Miike. And without further ado, I think I'll turn it back around. But first, before we get going, I do want to ask you about this one here before we get. Well, first things first. Let me get this stuff out of the way.
Mhm.
Tom is heading up our Reddit department.
Mhm.
On X, go ahead and give him a shout out there. Give him a follow, like, subscribe, um, as well as I am on ApeIt.Ink. It is my publication of record, as I like to say. A little bit heavier stuff. The nerddom thing is a lot more lighthearted of what we do, but also on Twitter, and that's the Yats, which has all of our stuff together. If you want to ever check it out, but so we are going to cover this one. But I did want to go back to the Malazan because I think you wanted to say some speak on that if you could for a moment because I kind of cut you short there a little bit.
Oh yeah, no problem. Yeah, no, it's just a quick 20-minute video. I did when I was reading the big, expansive Steven Erickson's book series, The Book of the Fallen, Malazan. I was kind of doing it book by book, but this I started reading it and kept going about. I was like, well, I'll maybe do a midway point, but I ended up finishing all six books. So it's not a real in depth kind of dive in on that. Just my overall impressions and what I thought of the series. But yeah, no, if you're into those series, it's spoilery, so you want to be familiar with the books before you watch it. So I did advertise it on some Malazan centric Reddit subreddits and also Facebook. So I think that's maybe where I'm getting some views from. But
Outs-
yeah,
Outstanding.
but
Yeah.
yeah, we're all over the place. I like comic books. I like fantasy novels, and I'm a big horror guy. And I think I'm making Mike into one as well.
Slowly
Uh,
but surely.
yep. And so Maxine, it can be appreciated on its own. So if you just went to the movies just to see Maxine, you'll be pleasantly surprised and enjoy your experience. But if you didn't know it was a trilogy, it is. Starting with X, we did an earlier show about it. Yep, Mike's right there with it. And we were a little cheeky and we paired it with the movie Men, so it was be X Men. I copped that from another YouTuber. Your movie sucks. His idea of that, so I was like, good idea, deserves being stolen. So that's what we did. We both liked that X and Men, and then X led into its prequel Pearl that we covered just a few weeks ago in
We did.
preparation for for Maxxxine, and then we were kind of playing catch up on both of those movies. We saw them on streaming or decided we'd hit it into the theaters and be the first on the block to talk about it.
Absolutely, yeah. This one, this is the culmination, like you were saying, in that roll up of what we covered already. This one, I was really excited when I saw the trailer. So there's like this old thing. Not really true. Maybe it is. I don't know. But what it's saying is, if you go see movie A or whatever, and you sit through the previews and the trailers and the commercials,
Hmm.
um, and if the trailers and the previews are good, that usually portends that you're going to see something good on the screen. Or if you, at least if a couple of them resonate. That was the case when I went to see a movie last month, and I had mentioned it to you about seeing, or we kind of mutually talked about it. I think as it happened. But I remember seeing the trailer to this in the theater. I was very impressed, and I really I was not disappointed.
Yeah.
Was happy to. We actually saw this fresh today, so like earlier today that I snuck in. How was the seating there for you in your neck of the woods this morning?
I had the whole theater to myself.
Yeah,
just
we
just me.
just you. Yeah, little old you. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. We had we were there, and it wasn't packed. It There's maybe 20 people, maybe they're sprinkled throughout kind of thing, but hardly
Mhm.
packed at all, which is nice. But
Of course,
it
of course I went at 10:40, so a lot of people were probably
yeah, we
not even thinking about movies at that point in the day.
Yeah, we saw it in a different kind of time of the day as well, like
Mhm.
an unusual time, less traffic time anyway. But
Yeah.
it was a chance to beat the heat and
Mhm.
go and have fun, and it was good. It was kind of nice to see this one,
Mhm.
and it held up. Love me a Goth fan here for sure.
Mhm.
Definitely a Ty West fan. You know, I don't know how you want to tackle this one because we've already seen, and I really should have gone back and watched the X. That's probably the only one that I'm probably not as fresh on
Mhm.
as it goes, but nonetheless, we shall persevere and
Yeah. Mhm.
check out this guy. Yeah, so you saw it. What are your what don't keep us in suspense. What was your thought as far as I guess we can get into this many ways to which one's your favorite, that all that stuff a little bit later on, but um
Right. Yeah, yeah, this is was highly enjoyable. Yeah, it's one of those basically X it's kind of an interesting format because there's X that takes place during the 17 is one of
mhm,
the characters in that. And it's sort of the movie is sort of like an ode to 70s
mhm,
porn and 70s horror movies. It's sort of a love letter to those. And then Pearl kind of takes us back to a character from X, an older lady, and Pearl, played also by Mia Goth, is
mhm,
and it's sort of a kind of an ode to old Hollywood, the golden age of Hollywood there, and then we jump forward to basically a sequel to X, which is another love letter to 80s porn and 80s horror movies. So that's it's kind of interesting. Now with 80s, we're all kind of inundated with all these retro 80s kind of properties like Stranger Things and different things where um, I think where they just kind of throw everything 80s on the wall. So everybody go, oh, that's
mhm,
80s, that's 80s, that's 80s, and just everything maybe they love about the 80s they're including in their 80s movies or TV shows. Whereas Maxine, I think it doesn't. It kind of wears its influences on its sleeve, but it doesn't throw it into your face, and
no,
it all works. I mean, it's a capturing a period of time. It's right when it's 1985. St. Elmo's Fire just came out in the theaters, and so that's being advertised. You see a notice of it being advertised on a theater, and then later on, she's got the radio on, and they're doing Casey Kasem's
Mhm.
top 40s hits, and so he plays the hit song from the movie St. Elmo's Fire. So yeah, all of the connections kind of make sense in this.
Oh, that
It's not like they're throwing out your favorite toy from the 80s,
no,
and it all works within the world because it's all world building.
right.
It's all there for world building. It's not to say, hey, we're 80s. It doesn't have that obligatory electronics or a John Carpenter type soundtrack. It actually probably,
Synthy,
yeah.
no, it has it's very organic how it gives it to you. Like every natural corner that you bump into that is 85 is here for a reason. And
Yep.
they did that very, very well. God knows
Mm-hmm.
you're either hit over the head with a hammer with
Mm-hmm.
how some films do it nowadays, or
Mm-hmm.
but this is the perfect
Mm-hmm.
amounts of actually part of the character of the story anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, and also 80s the movies that are set in 80s now are maybe a little too clean, a little too pristine, a little too neon and perfect. Whereas this movie kind of shows the darker side of the 80s, where it's kind
Oh yeah.
of greasy and grimy, still neon, greasy and grimy, and
Miami Vice vibe, that kind of 80s future
Mhm.
retro,
Mhm.
even down to the font they use for it, here
Mhm.
and there.
Yeah,
Yeah, this one,
absolutely.
yeah, I like this one. I most everything in this movie worked very well for me. It did
Yeah.
kind of get a little bumpy at parts, but it totally subverts your expectations still.
Yeah.
I feel a certain kind of way about the ending, but that's a little bit further afield. But what it gives you though, it makes sense, and it does a very good showing for itself. How about
Yeah.
you? How did you think the pacing was, or the length? I thought this was the length of the runtime was just fine for me. I didn't have any
Yeah.
issues with it.
Yeah, hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah,
That's quality. You know, you don't need this to be 3.5 hours.
no,
It's not
not
a Marvel
not
orgasm of violence. You know, it's
yeah, it's not a
it kind
Tolkien.
of yeah, it's kind of.
Not a Tolkien,
Mm-hmm.
Bible thing going on here.
Yeah, she's not looking for a ring there. She's just looking for the big break. But yeah, it's
Absolutely, yeah, and she is. There was there was one part, and I know exactly. I'm sure you know exactly what I'll get to. Like that was fairly early on, like where it's basically kind of set the pace of like, um, oh, it's a chick, and then you kind of see her and how real world she is. You see she's this hardened LA Hollywood warrior that takes nothing from no one at all. And there was like one scene that like made me recoil. I think you know exactly what scene that is. Like that was a
yeah.
surprise.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. There's it's not violent wall to wall, but yeah, it punctuates its violence pretty clearly. That's yeah, it hits you in the face when it comes at you. But yeah, it's interesting pacing. It's yeah, a lot of got a lot of great actors in it as well. Kevin Bacon's in it and does a fantastic job. Talk about greasy and grimy. He's about as greasy and grimy as you can get.
yeah, well, it was the was it the it wasn't the Sam Neill movie. It was the one down in wasn't Nicolas Cage, was it? It was the Baton Rouge kind of. He kind of
Hmm.
had that kind of
Hmm.
Louisiana drawl, New Orleans.
Hmm.
I'm not doing it justice here, but
Right.
like that character. You could smell New Orleans
You can
when he was on the.
you can taste the gumbo, so to speak.
You could yeah, absolutely. Whenever he was on the screen, you could smell it because he's such a good job getting into that character. Yeah, Kevin
Hmm.
Bacon was
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Oh yeah, and Giancarlo Esposito from Breaking Bad fame. He was awesome in this as
Absolutely,
her
yeah, yeah. That was
agent.
a wonderful surprise.
Yeah, he's always good to watch on the screen. Um, yeah, and like I said, I think this trilogy's made us both Mia Goth fans. We're all for that. Always now I'm looking forward to what she's going to be in next. Um, and then I forget her name. I don't think I know her name, but the lady detective in
Yeah.
it. She's
She looked kind of
I
familiar a
think
little bit.
she's um, yeah, she's in the Marvel TV series that Carter
Get
series.
Carter.
I forget.
Or no, that was a movie. No.
No. She's the female captain series.
Oh, okay. I know where you're going. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
the I can't find her on the thing here. But yeah, I'll pull it up here momentarily.
Hmm.
While I
Yeah,
look here.
Michelle Monaghan, I think is her name.
Moneyhan.
Yeah.
Yeah, Moneyhan.
Yep.
Good grief. Well, you can tell this isn't scripted at all. Oh,
But no,
well, she's not on the main list here, but I'll find her here a little bit.
yeah.
Moneyhan. Why do you hide them so? That's horrible. She did such a good job too.
Right. Yeah.
And and Bobby Cannavale too. I don't really know him from anything, but
Oh yeah,
he,
he's in Boardwalk Empire. He's also in Mr. Robot. He in I think the last last 2 or 3 seasons of that. He's
okay.
awesome. Yeah, someone described him as sir this generation's Robert De Niro, but for some reason he's not popular,
Hmm.
enough to he hasn't been everywhere. But yeah, he's a fantastic actor. He's more he's kind of settled himself into more or less kind of character roles, which is I think he could carry something on his own. But yeah, he's pretty awesome.
Oh, he
So it
absolutely
was
could. Yeah.
nice um, seeing him in it.
Absolutely. Yeah, they both kind of had their own kind of everything in this worked very well for me. I don't think there was any rough spots aside from like maybe it kind of felt a little bit offbeat or trying to find its pacing or not pacing but they roll through like the whole backlot of on Hollywood too in a couple different tense scenes that you see. And I think Tom is going to come back here momentarily.
Yeah,
Okay, there you go. Now you're back. All
yeah,
right. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I was just saying they play with the scenes that they do. They kind of take a jog through a few
hmm.
famous backlots. That's what it is.
Right.
In Hollywood,
Hmm.
like on the set. The different studios or whatever. Like you see like classic horror film house.
Right.
And the Bates Motel, which they didn't hide that. Like they it was organic and it worked for that.
Hmm.
But you saw that happen and you could tell that there was
Hmm.
I'm not quite sure. I'm sure that meant something maybe. I don't know. I'm too dumb to connect the dots on that one per se. I don't know, but I think it was just kind of a happy coincidence, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, since it takes place in Hollywood and she's an actress, she's got her big break. So yeah, it was interesting that they had access to those backlots and the fact that they were able to film on the Bates Motel set, and obviously that hasn't changed all these years. And then the Bates house, that was awesome. It was a nice bit of kismet, I guess you would say.
Hmm.
That they were able to kind of play that on with Bates's mother haunting Bates, but also Pearl haunting Maxine.
Right.
And yeah, that was a nice little interplay
Hmm.
that happened. And yeah,
That
I
is
don't.
true. Yeah.
that was a bit delicious. You know, it's like seeing, you know, like you know, I with these movies I try not to watch the trailers because you
Mm.
know a lot of times it'll spoil something for you. Like I knew Kevin Bacon was in this, but I didn't know anything about his character, so it was a nice surprise to see. It
How
wasn't a surprise to see him, but to see his
how that
take
came
on
about.
yeah
Sure, sure.
how this character plays out, and the one of the big words was that it was kind of love letter to giallo movies, which it has parts of it in it. It's almost like he wanted to touch on a lot of different '80s kind of horror elements, and there's a definite thread of giallo. I wouldn't call this a giallo
No.
in particular, but it does have giallo elements to it that were fun to see. Like
Nick,
the big thing about giallos is the killer. All you usually see is their gloved hands, and there's a
that
lot of
you
that in it.
I did not
hmm
connect the dots on that. Yeah, that
hmm
also makes sense with the 80s location and time.
And
And
then
I've commented on some of my favorite giallos, like
mhm.
they nail the that time in that world perfectly.
And I think I got the actress wrong. She was an Agent Carter from Marvel. She was in one of the seasons of True Detective. But yeah, I knew I'd seen her before, but I think she looks a little bit like the Agent Carter lady. So anyway, we're we
Good
don't do this
correction.
we don't do this professionally. We're
Right.
amateurs, right?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, no.
my fact checker Papa would let me know about that. So
Yeah, I also wanted to say throw a shout out to Elizabeth Debicki. I was
Debicki.
not yeah, yeah, when she's like the producer
hmm No,
E
the
E
director.
yeah,
Right.
director.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct. Right, right.
Writer.
Yeah,
Director.
director, EP, whatever, like the
Uh,
head, the boss, right?
yeah. Yeah.
And she at first I didn't like her character because she was like very far away and very cold
hmm
because she had a kind of distant cold persona. It wasn't just her, it was like
hmm
when you are introduced to her character when she goes in for when Maxine
hmm
goes in for her audition, which she absolutely murders. She absolutely nails it perfectly. Um,
Yeah.
but you have that, and then but you kind of grow to really like her as a director
Yeah. You
because
almost. Yeah.
she's like the hard boiled yet somewhat inviting role model or figure, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Sort of almost like a mentor to Maxine,
Right.
and you could tell. Yeah, she's kind of has her hard edges, like Maxine. I
Right.
think the director sees a little bit of herself in
Yep.
Maxine, and yeah, you can almost see that Maxine may eventually become someone like the director, because have to imagine with her growing up and becoming a director in Hollywood, that she's probably dealt with some rather seedy things like Maxine has had to
Jack.
deal with.
Yeah, Jack. Well, and they did a quote at the very beginning of the movie, and I'm gonna butcher it, but it was by
hmm
Betty Davis, excuse me.
hmm
And she said something to the effect of, "You're not really a star until you're a monster."
Yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
which is a very
hmm
curious. You're kind of going into this movie, and you're kind of curious, like, okay, that's very curious. But you see what that means. Not a monster to hurt people per se,
hmm
but a monster to protect yourself. That might also hurt other people, but that's not necessarily it's like a selfish monster, right? So it's like
hmm
not evil monster, but self-preservation. Some do take it to
hmm
evil links, like we run into this film a little bit.
Yep.
But it worked very well. Nobody bludgeoned me over the head with exposition. Like they did I think they did they, it almost did it pulled off a montage. Like it felt like
Yeah.
um but they did it very there were tight corners on this movie, and those tight corners were very well executed, but some of them kind of lined up all together. They were a little bit too close together, and it kind of made things kind of shift a little bit more than maybe they should have. I'll just put that way, plot wise, and like I'm not going to spoil it. I don't even think we're going to get into spoilers, to be honest, but we like to keep those to the vest when we can, unless talking about it, warrants, a key point or something like that. But maybe I'll leave that to Tom. But I'll refrain from it for now. But
well, we'll let you know if we are inspired to delve into it. But yeah, I like the kind of pairing of the Betty Davis quote at the beginning, and then at the end they end it with the song "Betty Davis Eyes," which now that I think about it, I guess me and Goth has similar eyes to Betty Davis. So
yeah.
that's and yeah, you got Betty Davis is a hard old woman from what but I'm sure she had some stuff to deal with in her younger days too. So
Yeah, you get this the fears. I didn't care for a couple aspects of it because I think it kind of brought the. I know why they did it, and you already knew that this person had been through something, and I love how they tell how she has, without spoiling the first two films. Um, I mean, there's a connection there, but they weave it in so very well with her character. It maybe was a little bit tighter on a few more spots, or maybe a little shorter in some other spots. That it could have been a little bit higher rating, but it was. I was trying to think my
well,
main. Go ahead. Here, you go ahead. I gotta think. I gotta think this through.
Yeah, another thing about these movies is that you tend to go for the cliche, and in this movie, he kind of, in a lot of cases, goes against cliche. He tries to do something a little bit different, and maybe he succeeds sometimes, and sometimes he doesn't. But every time it's kind of unexpected and welcoming.
Yes.
There's the character that runs a video store, and the very natural, like Kevin Smith to run the the video store, or maybe someone like Quentin Tarantino or something. And then this one, they go with a gay black man that's very much into horror, and he's got like a cast for some reason that's never explained. But he's into the metal music. He's got his Judas Priest shirt on, and he puts on his Judas Priest music as he skateboards around. But yeah, he's kind of an interesting twist. I mean, it's a similar character than that the kind of wisecracking guy that has is a nice parallel to the main actor. But and can the main actor can play off of him. But it's a similar character that but twisted a little bit differently. It's kind of played by a different type character than you would expect, and it's kind of refreshing. So there's at once there's a familiarity because we're kind of familiar with this type of character in the movie, but it's different enough to kind of spice things up to make it a little bit different.
Yeah, I agree. They are you kind of come to know that that Maxxxine is hard scrabble, self-made, definitely has ambition, and has her own kind of family community. You're kind of dropped in her slice of life very quickly.
And this is a kind of the greasy, grimy area of Hollywood because he's this nerdy guy that's into videos, but he has this huge knife that I guess he uses to scare off maybe bad customers.
Well, I think they showed in that block in the block of where that shop is also where her apartment is, and then a little bit further down. And I loved how they did this. I don't know why I love it, but it's such an iconic kind of thing, like where You see the Army Navy store. You see the comic book, or the not the comic, but the video store
Mm.
kind of thing.
The karate, they're doing the
Oh
karate.
yeah, the karate. Yeah, the karate outlet
Not,
mall.
not, not,
Yeah,
not like the late night karate session.
right. Yeah, you had that, and then you had the electronics kind of store with like all the
Hmm.
TVs stacked up, which was
Hmm.
cool. And you get the ambiance of where you're at, but everything works
Hmm.
very well. But it's her family, but you see that she's not timid at all,
Hmm.
and she's very fierce. Like I said, you're dropped into her life right away from the beginning of the movie all the way to the end. You're with her essentially,
Hmm.
so you see what her day is like. Very very risque, peak.
Hmm.
Doesn't flinch at all.
Yeah, and
Just
maybe
keeps it moving. Oh no, I was just saying it keeps it moving.
yeah, and that part of Hollywood for some reason I kept thinking about different writers. I guess you could probably someone that's more of a cinephile that knows movies like a catalog. We could probably rattle off some movies that it's similar to. But
Oh sure.
with the sort of that street life of L.A. and stuff, it kind of made me think of Andrew Vaugh's hard-boiled novels, and also James Elroy. Just that whole atmosphere of
Uh,
just the dark side of Hollywood and things. They're writing,
Grimy.
so, yeah, greasy and grimy. I like that.
Yeah, no,
So yeah.
it's a perfect aspect, and she's trying to continue on,
Hmm.
and then she you see her get into this right away, really. You kind of see how she deals with things, that how life kind of comes at her. Um, and she's not a spring chicken. She's not green. None of this is new to her. She's
Right.
survived. And not only
Right.
has she survived, she's thrived and made a name, literally a name for herself, as an adult star.
Yep.
And then she goes in and she's ready. She rolls up to that audition. She owned it. I mean, I think she
Hmm.
kind of knew it. Like you kind of like you're like looking back at kind of like how they kind of show different aspects of it as you progress through the film. But
Yeah.
it works very well to kind of reinforce her her
Yeah.
internal compass, so to speak.
Yeah, and I love how the character Maxine and how Mia Goth portrays her because there's like a switch that turns her off and on when she knows she has to go into predator mode. Like at the beginning of the movie, she's going for a role and she wants the
Mhm.
role. This is a legit role that break her out of from being in porn.
Her first real
And
movie.
yeah, exactly. So
Right.
she knows she has to turn it on to
Her
11.
words. Right.
Yeah, turn it to 11 to get this. And so she's furious. She's out there. She's ready for it. She's expressive. She's cool and calm. And then she gets out there and she goes, "You losers, you might as well go home because I got the part."
Right.
She's very being very performative and that's sort of like a almost a defense mechanism. It's sort of like her way of getting through that and getting it. But whenever she's herself, you notice that she's very reserved, quiet, and is analyzing everything.
Right.
She's taking it all in. She's figuring things out. But yeah, so she knows when to be expressive and show herself, and other times when she needs to, quiet things down and kind of lock in. it's it's very interesting to see the different aspects to a character because usually in a movie you just see one aspect of a character. They're either always on or they're always off, or you don't see that interplay of her deciding in each particular instant when to turn it on. Like there's a point when Kevin Bacon's following her and she notices and she has something to do about it,
Did
and
not see.
she turns it to 11 on that moment as well.
Yeah, no, she does. She is a kind of keep it family friendly here. F around and find out kind of attitude toward life. And that's awesome.
Yeah,
She,
yeah, no, she's a lot of times when you in Hollywood movies, there's the tough woman. I think a a lot of these movies that have come out previously where they wanted to do action movies with the female character. They don't know how to do an action for a woman. I think a lot of times they just go, okay, take out the man, put the woman in,
Right.
keep everything the same. No, that's not how it works. That's not how to make a tough woman. In this
No.
movie is how to make a tough woman.
Yeah, you know, it
Because she's
inadvertently.
very believable in this movie, and you
Well,
believe that she would do, she could do all these
well,
things that she does.
it almost. I don't think it gets all the way there, but I think I can make an argument that it almost gets there. Like where it inadvertently is kind of a little bit of an action movie,
Yeah,
in its own way, which is also unexpected and surprising.
yeah,
This kind of redefines that it's not afraid to take on new parts of what a female hero is, or anti-hero really is what it is what she is.
hmm
Um, because you only have her point of view, and she's like, you or I mean, albeit have been through some very effed up and traumatic experiences that shaped her, but did not crush her. Definitely
hmm
molded her. But it's very refreshing to have
yeah,
that.
and
It almost you almost want more.
hmm
Like what it gives you, you want a little bit more from. And other times it does reward you very well with that
hmm
concept, but other times it kind of doesn't make make the ends meet on other
hmm
things. That doesn't mean it's bad at all. The opposite. Just not that it's as good as it could have been, I guess.
I think this may be controversial, or you may not agree with me on this, but I think while watching this movie, this would make a great double feature for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and this movie would make a great
Uh,
double feature
you know,
about Hollywood.
no, I like that. I
Good.
love that. No, I love that because they don't touch on, like, I think they would pair very well together. I agree with that because I did get a little bit of that when they were in the Hollywood thing and they went through the Wild
Mm.
West thing. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's the same one. I have no
hmm
idea. I don't know, but it looked kind of the same. It had the same vibe anyway.
hmm
And it was like that's what I was thinking immediately, like where not just that part, but a few parts too. And of course, whenever you can be reminded of echoes of Quentin Tarantino without directly copying very badly
hmm
or butchering some aspect of it, it paid some homage, a little bit.
yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, and
didn't
I
see any
think
feet though.
no, she. But yeah, this movie also, I like the fact that a lot of movies about Hollywood or about movie making, a lot of times they could get a little too much up in their own head or start
Mm.
sniffing their own farts. You kind of get too much into the details of Hollywood and how things work, and they kind of want to maybe show off a little bit. But this movie, like it's how it handles the '80s, it just gets you enough to where it knows you've seen Hollywood movies. It understands that you know these things. They don't have to get into it. It's just set dressing for the story. It's the backdrop. It does not need to be center stage.
No.
And it's all about Maxine. Although there's it definitely leaves room for the minor characters and the smaller characters to breathe. Like the detective guy that we were talking about earlier. He's a failed actor, and and you get that there's almost a whole story arc for him in this
It's so neatly
movie.
tucked in. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's you don't have to have a whole lot. There's a lot told without a lot being told about this character. You know immediately who he is and what he's all about. And they do that expertly through the whole thing. It kind of hints at different cliches, but then expands it and kind of twists
Right.
it into new and interesting different ways. So it's almost like shorthand for you to understand what's going on. But then they go, okay, you understand this, so we're gonna take it in a different direction, and that's what I really enjoyed about this movie. of the little surprises in it. Because for a horror movie fan like myself, it's hard to surprise me, and this movie did have its little surprises for me. It's like, oh wow, they did that. Okay.
Yeah. Excuse me. Pardon me.
Yeah, yeah. Been a long day for us, huh?
Yeah, no, it worked very well for me too. Like I took a couple of helpers with me, and I asked them. Of course, they didn't know anything about the other two,
Hmm.
but I the one this always happens, right? So like one my son went in there being like, I don't really care. When I was like, hey man, you want to go see the movie today? And he's like, maybe. And I was like, no, yes or no. I can't buy a ticket with maybe. Like,
Right.
I'm not going to spend the money on maybe. Let's put that way.
Right.
But so he kind of came in here with like, no, like, I don't care, kind of like, cool, whatever,
Hmm.
dad. And my daughter kind of went in there, I think, a little bit more excited than him.
Hmm.
And by the time we got done, they both liked it, but I think my
Hmm.
son liked it a little bit more than my daughter did. But she still thought it was good. So
That's
she,
good.
she
That's
she
good.
still liked it. She just thought it was a little bit boring in some parts, but it is what it is. But no,
Right.
and of course they're teenagers now, so whatever.
Right.
Uh,
Exactly.
but the other thing too is restraint. For considering the subject matter and the things that you are shown
Hmm.
and glide right on by.
Hmm.
Um, they're not gratuitous with it. If maybe this were made in the 80s, they would
Hmm.
not have missed an opportunity to show TNA at all.
Right.
That would have been a hallmark of the 80s. But this one did it. It did it enough to kind of show you like what was going on and to be like you're an adult, um,
Hmm.
and it worked very well.
Hmm.
Although some of them are even kind of a little bit humorous, a little bit too.
Hmm.
But yeah, you had the edge there of the noir.
Hmm.
You had the wrap up, like as it were. I
Hmm.
I got to go back, I guess, and re-up on X, and then just kind of like because it shows you kind of key details from those movies.
I like how
Um,
the flashbacks are done with old film or with
oh
videotape
yeah,
kind of grain to it.
yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
like our TV grain, yeah.
No, they did a good job with it too. Yeah.
Yeah, and they actually I was reading on the little facts on it, and they said that they used the old film stock and stuff to film that, so that there's no digital stuff. It's all with real film, and
Authentic.
you could see that you could see like that especially that scene. I don't know why it stood out, but with her with Maxine talking to her fellow porn star after. She filmed her the other one had filmed her scene that grain to the film what you could tell on film that it's kind of a hallmark of film.
Right. Yeah, no. The aesthetics perfectly done. There is
Hmm.
not one aspect of this movie that was done wrong.
Hmm.
For the era, the roles, I would be very surprised if there were any mistakes,
Hmm.
per se. But it was very tightly done. Mia Goth is just a great actress.
Yeah, and I was
She
yeah, even though it was a trilogy, I'm looking forward to the fourth movie, and I found out today that Ty West, depending on how successful this movie is, he's planning on a fourth one. And I would love to
I would be
see.
down.
I love to see Maxine in the '90s, the
Oh yeah,
2000s. I mean, come on,
yeah. That would
let's
be
go, let's go.
well. They do it so well how they tell the
Hmm.
three different stories.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
And
and
you're
there's nice little connections that are there for you to find. Like at one point, she crushes out a cigarette on Theta's star, which, if you
mhm.
remember in Pearl, one of her animals were named Theta.
Theta, that's right. Yeah, the
Yeah,
pig, I think,
the
or
pig.
something like
Yep,
that. Yeah, yeah.
the pig. Yep.
Yeah, that is so cool. See, I love that connected little mini universe.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
yeah. There's those tissues where it doesn't. It's there for us that have seen all
right.
of them, but if this is your first movie, it's not like you're missing out or feel like you're missing out on something.
Yeah, and it does it very well. This is probably like I think it kind of it really also reminded me. It doesn't necessarily. My favorite one is like when you get into the psyche, or
Mm-hmm.
the psyche sphere, like where the internal kind of thing, like where sometimes they play with that, and you don't quite know if they're seeing reality or if they're seeing if they're on whatever,
Mm-hmm.
or if it really is supernatural, something like that, or whatever the mechanism is or the thing, being fast and loose here with it, but it flirts with it a little bit, which I liked, and I think that
Mm-hmm.
also worked for me too because it also kind of felt like it felt like not like True Detective. It had its own, not so much the weight of the supernatural or whatever. And of course, different seasons of True Detective, you get different, very different quality
Mm-hmm.
and storylines. But it kind of reminded me of like True Detective season 3, a little
Mm-hmm.
bit like where how it kind of there's some intrigue there a little bit. Of course, and of course, the satanic panic, in the 80s,
Oh,
that thing where there was
absolutely.
thing going on. And they had D. Schneider, a clip of him when he went in front of Congress and was like,
Mm-hmm.
look, man, these are just sound recordings, and you guys clearly don't understand theatrics, like showmanship. You guys clearly don't understand how entertainment works. Nobody's
Right. Absolutely.
killing, making a sacrifice to Satan. Like this is about money. Probably even
And those
worse,
are.
honestly. But because money's
Uh-huh.
real.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, it was almost kind of quaint seeing that, comparing it to nowadays, and what those same people, what they would be calling it, be in uproar
Right.
about nowadays. But yeah, no, it's yeah, I don't know, it's kind of nicely wraps up everything. It did feel very lit. I think with Stranger Things, there's almost like you can almost feel the plastic of the maybe the action figure, so to
Sure.
speak, of the show. It doesn't quite, it's a hyper real version of the '80s, whereas this is a very lived in. I could almost feel like I could step into it, even though I wasn't in Hollywood in the time of the '80s, and it was totally different from my world. But I know the movies I watched from the '80s that were filmed in the '80s that I saw during the '80s, and it felt very much like those, and it felt it had a genuine sense of authenticity. I don't know how old Ty West is and how much he's drawing from memory from the '80s, or if it's all education from the movies. But he does a great job with this, and I think he's quickly becoming one of my top directors, because none of his movies have failed to. I haven't seen every single one of them, but yeah, everything I've seen of his has been absolutely stellar. So yeah, I'm quickly becoming a big fan of his.
I am right there. I'm right behind you. I really, oh man, the every time we go into one of these things, you don't quite know what to expect. And I love that feeling. And even better, I love the feeling that you're rewarded with quality.
Hmm.
Is this like amazing and the best ever? No, but you know what? When you get familiar with like if you like any of the concepts or the themes throughout the three films, or the interconnectedness that are there,
Hmm.
and there's something there to like.
Hmm.
Um, I'd be hard pressed to see like which one I think I like more. And I think we kind of tapped out maximum things to say about the film about Maxine. We're maxing out Maxine. Oh
Oh,
God, that could be taken a different way.
I will also point out, and it's kind of oddly enough, one of the podcasts I listen to, shout out to Regulation Podcast, formerly known as Fuckface Podcast. They always bleep out the fuck part, but
Right.
anyway, he was talking about how You don't see Dobermans nowadays. You just never see them, and he started seeing Dobermans um, recently in his neighborhood,
Hmm.
and he's like, "Oh wow, Dobermans, they're coming back." But he was talking about how they were all over the '80s. You know, they were the
The
'80s, the
standard,
'80s,
yeah, yeah,
the '80s version of pit bulls were Dobermans,
right.
and they got the bad rap, and they got banned or whatever, and that's when pit bulls started coming in. But yeah, this movie had some Dobermans. So I was like, oh yeah, that's the '80s, all right. You got
It's
your
so
Dobermans.
true. Yeah, or dead end 80s TV show series or whatever, like
Hmm.
the caper or
Hmm.
like
Well,
junkyard or
Higgins
something.
Higgins on Magnum PI, he had his pet Dobermans.
This is true. This is true.
Yeah.
Magnum PI. What a great. Yeah, yeah. No, no, I loved this film. This is I'd be hard pressed to kind of give it because I have a hard time with. I always tend to rate the thing I just saw a little bit higher than probably
Hmm.
the other things that I've seen. But I really enjoyed Pearl. I think Pearl is probably. I want to say that was probably one of my favorites.
Yeah,
But
I was thinking about yeah, this movie is one of those I'm gonna have to watch again,
yeah, me too.
because after I watched it, I was like, okay, well, I wasn't 100% on how I felt about it, and I was like, I need another second viewing of this to really cement how I feel about it, because yeah, it kind of throws you on some. My little intro. I don't think Chat GPT had seen the movie, so its description was kind of off, but
Yeah,
about the
cat.
all these plot twists or whatnot.
No
But
cat.
yeah, exactly. The there's not plot twists, but he twists things in interesting ways, and I don't know. Some of them kind of threw me for a loop, and it wasn't like I was like, "Oh yeah, right, yeah, that's great." But it makes sense to me, and I think I might appreciate it on a second viewing. But the movie that I instantly got, well, I got both X and Pearl straight away. But the movie that rewarded me the most and gave me more than I expected, because I thought it was going to be a lower tier movie, because I thought I knew everything that would happen in Pearl, but and it kind of played to that, but also it went way above what I
Yep.
expected, and it gave me something completely different. Like this movie and X, Maxine and X are kind of like ode to '70s
Right.
horror movies, and this Maxine's a ode to the '80s horror movies. So I know what to kind of expect, and he plays with that. But again, I know what to expect. Whereas Pearl was like totally unexpected, and he feel because the golden age of Hollywood, you didn't have horror movies, so to play along
Hmm.
with this horrific kind of story in that playground with the bright, vibrant colors of a golden age movie it was just kind of a breath of fresh air, and just kind of showed you that horror can play out in different in a bright sunny atmosphere.
Oh yeah.
And which much like Midsummer did as well to different aspects, but yeah.
Another movie that one
Hmm.
that I love. I'd
Hmm.
love to. I want to revisit that one too. So,
Yeah.
it's all the things I love. Definitely a favorite. Yeah, this one. I will say the ending was a little bit of a head scratcher. I'm not giving anything away.
Hmm.
It's just a little bit. It wasn't a letdown. I don't think it. I don't believe that. But I do like how it. I liked how the kind of the level of gore you got was somewhere in between. Like a Quentin Tarantino kind of flick. But done. Ty West has his own kind of unique. I guess he did it Ty West way. Really, that would
Hmm.
probably be the highest compliment I could give instead of saying like
Yeah.
Quentin Tarantino. But it doesn't stick around for too long. It does what it needs to do to get in and out.
I
Um,
I will say this, and those that don't want any type of spoilers, kind of skip ahead. I won't spell things out to you,
well,
but
yeah. Well, we're
um,
already at 50,
yeah,
55, so
right.
spoiler warning ahead.
But yeah, it plays with the idea of '80s horror movies having the fake ending where like something happens
It did do
and
that.
and I didn't realize what he was doing. But and that's it was kind of turning me off because if that was how it was going to end, I was going to get a little bit upset. And then it flipped back. I was like, nope, nope. It was her imagination, and I was like, okay, okay. Well, how is it going to end? And it ends almost. It's that ending again, but in a more realistic situation. I don't know. So there's both are happy endings, but one's more realistic than the other, and that's the thing that still need to puzzle over.
I
I like the second ending better, but maybe I wouldn't have liked it as much if that first one hadn't prepped me for it.
well well the thing though is how to put this. I They didn't really, and maybe this is why I kind of have like this urge to go back and watch X, and really pay attention to certain parts of it, um, because you're kind of dropped in, and all these movies, really to their credit, there's only so much you can do with a trilogy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're done so well, they stand on their own, really. So if you have no clue about any of this stuff, you will be entertained by one of these three movies you're gonna like. I will say that
Mm-hmm.
for sure. The other ones you might not. One's gonna be your favorite, I have no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
And the other two might be kind of like not far off from the mark, but they
Mm-hmm.
do the man the this is my main point of this was the here I'm pulling with Biden. Jesus Christ.
But
But
yeah, no, I think the thing that kind of let me down right at the end was that
that's what it was. You jogged my
the
memory. Yeah.
the explosion of violence that Maxine does throughout the movie is surprising and unexpected, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't realize that that was going to happen. Whereas the last one that happens is like, oh, well, of course she does that. I don't know what else she could have done to the bad guy in it, but it was something that was kind of telegraphed and you knew what was going to happen. Whereas the other ones were unexpected.
Right. Well, and on top of that, I
I mean, he does. It's a great shot of that, and
no,
expertly executed. But
that's fine. It's just kind of like the bad guy,
uh-huh,
the noir guy, the murder guy.
uh-huh.
It almost entertains. Like, is that really the murder? And I say
I
that.
didn't have a problem with that.
No,
It
no,
made sense to me.
no. It I guess it did make sense, but it didn't make sense for me from the standpoint of you almost had this flirtation like with this occult or extremist kind of
Mm-hmm.
religious kind of whatever the hell that
Mm-hmm.
was. And I guess maybe they didn't. I'm not quite sure what they were doing with that. Threading the needle, maybe with the whole point, what the area of Hollywood that they were in, and the hills with the Manson and like they had everything there except for a pregnant woman. Like, and they didn't to be clear. But some of the aspects, like I guess I didn't quite get it. I didn't quite like they took some time to kind of show like this kind of eyes wide shut kind of thing going on, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't really spend too much time on it. And I didn't care for that. I wanted to know more about that. I guess that's really the only hard criticism I would say is that wasn't as developed
Well,
as I would have liked to see.
I think I think it kind of plays with the satanic panic aspect of things, but also I think
Right, but in name only though. Like that's kind of like what might like they did a few extra things. And it was also kind of tied in with the Night Stalker whole thing too. Like
right, and that was sort of like the red herring with the Night Stalker. You were
right.
thinking, well, maybe they'll tie into that, but yeah, I think I think it kind of works well for me, being all kind of surface level, and you really get too much into
All
the
right.
cult.
Maybe I'm I'm
Cult,
I'm trying to drill too deep.
well, I think it's sort of like I think there's certain aspects of this movie that are realistic, and then the other aspects that are kind of blown out and kind of intentionally kind of blown out to the point where it's kind of larger than life and probably kind of ridiculous if you kind of
There,
look a
there
little bit
is, there is,
closer
there
to it.
is.
And I think that aspect is pretty ridiculous and sort of like it's sort of like a showstopper. I think that if they had maybe tweaked it a little bit more, like I know what you're saying. I wanted a little bit more when it was revealed that what was going on. When the police show up, I was hoping for something maybe a little bit bigger or grander, kind of chew up all the scenery you could with that aspect of it. I think it kind of felt a little rush. I think it was maybe what you're saying, and who knows? Who knows? I have no idea. Maybe
Mm,
there's more, and
I,
maybe on a home release of it on Blu-ray. Maybe we'll get an
Slow mo, yeah.
extended cut of this.
Or some
But
kind of inside the pocket
mhm,
commentary would be good. And usually, like when this happens for me, it's usually because there is something else that I missed,
mhm,
or there's some other aspect that I'm not making the connection on. And
mhm.
you're right. You're absolutely right. Surface level, um, for crying out loud, the entire movie that woman was loaded. I mean, Maxine was like she was higher than a kite.
Mhm.
Like, but she wasn't like strung out high. She was like maintenance high, right? Like where she's like in the prime of her whatever,
I
not
would,
overdoing it, not
yeah,
not underdoing it,
yeah.
but so like that can also
Mhm.
weigh into like what she is seeing, and they like that fake ending, like that's obviously like
Yep.
she's like gaming this out here a little bit,
Yeah, and I wouldn't want to have her give me a ride to anywhere. Her driving skills a bit scary.
I noticed that like she just didn't give a shit. She didn't give a f. She didn't give a
Yeah,
fuck.
yeah, she's yeah. That's a very fascinating character. X kind of shows you kind of how she gets to where she is in Maxine,
She Oh, I will say
and yes.
she's a homie to keep around.
Hmm.
She's down to clown.
Yeah, you want to be on her good side
Yeah.
anyway. But yeah, there's not another trilogy I could think of that's anything like this, and
Uh-uh.
yeah, it's a very rare, and I'm glad we were able to. It came along while our podcast was in full swing, and we were able to cover all the movies, and hopefully there's a fourth one, and we could cover that
Practically
as
live.
well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very exciting, and if Ty West doesn't do a fourth one of this, for whatever
That's
reason,
okay. Yeah.
I'm happy to see whatever he comes up with next. And also, we're both Mia Goth fans. We're looking forward to
Mhm.
any other genre movies or any movie that she's in.
Oh, no, offline I will absolutely be consuming her back catalog for sure. She's very compelling,
Hmm.
and she does something she can do something that I drew a contrast to when I covered the Acolyte, which was Amanda Stenberg. I don't think I think she's talented, but not quite. She can't pull off the uniqueness that is like when you play yourself and you play your twin.
Hmm.
I won't get into
Yep.
that, but like she's horrible at that. But other than that, like when it's just her, like is whatever main character she's
Hmm.
supposed to be, with any other actor or actress, she's fine. Um,
Right.
Mia Goth is one who can do that expertly. Scarlett Johansson can do that as well, I feel like.
Hmm.
And this is just another tribute to A24. And how I guess I am. Look, I don't think
Hmm.
A24 is like the best studio ever. But where have you seen, in my opinion, where have you seen such quality? Maybe not the best, doesn't suck. It's not the worst. Um, Sometimes they get the critique of artsy fartsy. Um, Pearl X and Maxine do not ever suffer from any of that
Right.
at all.
There's two aspects. Yeah,
More commercial.
A24, which is maybe higher tier horror, and you have Blumhouse, which is kind of the workman's horror,
Yeah.
the crowd pleasing horror that that maybe doesn't take quite the risk that A24 movies does, but there's some quality stuff in Blumhouse. Not to demean them, but yeah, there's it's definitely a renaissance for horror. Definitely. Those people that say, "Well, everything's the same. There's no new movies." It's because you're watching the same movies. You're watching Marvel movies. You're watching Star Wars movies. Get out there and find something new. Try something a little bit different. There's definitely different things out there. And if you don't like the current crop of things, there's a whole hell of a lot of that you could probably dig up and
Oh man.
love. I mean, Dragon Slayer's become one of my favorite movies, and that was one that I really hadn't seen previously. And it's quickly become one of my favorites. So, there's a ton of stuff out there. Even though you think you've seen everything, you haven't seen everything.
Yeah, and I was just gonna point out before we're probably reaching the caboose here, but I was gonna point out that we tend to do this thing with '80s movies. So the fact that, I mean, obviously it wasn't made in the '80s; it was made
Right.
today, but the aesthetic fits in.
It's in the
Close.
DNA. There's definitely
It's
80s
on
in the DNA.
it's on brand. It's on
Yeah.
brand. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I really enjoyed this. Go out and watch it. It's a strong recommendation for me.
Yeah,
I
it's like a '80s movie cut itself and bled all over this movie.
Oh my God, yeah. You know, there's different kind of movies that have done like different kind of variations on the one scene that we saw that like I had pulled up there on the picture that was the the lawyer, entertainment lawyer, and that scene was so satisfying. It was very satisfying. There's
Yeah.
like there where this hits its mark, it's very well done. You know, like it screws the pooch on very very few things. Really, I don't even think it
Yeah,
does.
yeah, and I think one of the reasons why I guess maybe I thought of Andrew Vaughn. He's unfortunately he's passed away, but he was a great writer. If you have time to find some of his works, his novels are like 200-300 pages long, very in and
Very
out
quick.
kind of things.
Yeah.
Very crime noir type stuff. But he was a defense lawyer, and he kind of funded his business through his books because he defended people pro bono, and his clients were mostly children and young
Down
women
and
that
out. Yeah.
young women that couldn't
The vulnerable,
couldn't
vulnerable.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, the vulnerable. And his crime fiction was sort of his way of getting revenge on these scummy people that he could only get to in court, but in his books he had this kind of dark character, kind of dark hero character that was a guy for hire that would take out these scummy people. And then this movie kind of had that DNA to it as well, that sense of getting revenge.
It did have its own kind of set of justice, you know,
Hmm.
served kind of thing.
Exactly.
And like where anti-heroes do not play by the rules, you know, that kind of thing. But
Hmm.
it does it very well. A big Mia Goth fan. I wish they would
Yeah.
make more films like this in general. The world would be a
Yeah.
better, far better place.
The one movie I haven't seen yet with Mia Goth that I really want to see, that hopefully we'll cover on our channel here in the future. It's directed by Brandon Cronenberg, who's the son of David Cronenberg. He did a movie called Infinity Pool with her in it, which came out not too long ago. That's
It did.
streaming currently, so maybe we'll be able to check it out.
We might have to pick that up as a spare,
Hmm.
and just explore and see where we go with it. But I was kind of coming to the end. I also wanted to
Hmm.
kind of as we kind of say, make our way to the exit door.
Hmm.
The movie's over. Credits have rolled. Not quite yet,
Hmm.
but speaking of credits, that gives me a chance to take us through our bona fides again. If you liked what you've heard thus far, we would love to have some dialogue with you, the viewer.
Hmm.
Subscribe to get front row access to our thing,
Hmm.
our YouTube channel. We're working on. I'm trying to get the paint dry on the website. I had a first run through and it didn't quite work the way I wanted. So, also, it's also money, right? So, I don't have infinite money, but this thing is with love. You'll no doubt find something that we've done in the last 207 film or videos that we've done. Um,
Hmm.
Connect with us on Reddit.
And
Always welcome that.
surprisingly, I get a little bit of engagement on Reddit.
I have no doubt.
When the subreddit doesn't ban or delete my post, I do get some engagement. Like with I think with our last one with Blade of the Immortal, I had a nice conversation with the guy that was a Mike a tempered Mike fan. He was like, "This was one movie where I didn't have to throw up after seeing the Mike movie." so,
Absolutely.
so we had a little back and forth there, and I've had some conversations with other people about other movies. Surprisingly, very very cordial conversations, which you wouldn't expect from Reddit.
I,
But yeah, there's some nice
I,
people out there.
it,
And I surprisingly that Gotchamon, I did a review of the Gotchamon comic, and I posted. I think I put it on Medcave's subreddit, which is their comic book Reddit, which you would think they wouldn't mind us promoting their comic books on their page, but they deleted my post there. So I went to the Gotchamon subreddit, and they really digged it. There's the most upvoted thing I've ever posted on Reddit from them, and I think that video's up to 50 views, and I think it's all owed to that
Old school
subreddit.
Reddit.
So
It's
yeah.
probably because it's a little bit more old. There's a pocket of old school, and it's not popular for corporal Reddit to like
Hmm.
sink their fangs into and try to monetize the hell to the hilt.
Yeah, I think it's by people. If you're a Gotcha Man fan, you're a Gotcha Man fan, and they appreciate anybody kind of spotlighting or propping it up. I think a lot of subreddits. I'm not as expert on Reddit by no means, but I get the sense as a newbie outsider that a lot of the subreddits, some of the people there are kind of overinflated, kind of actually you're not really part of our community, so we're gonna, instead of maybe welcoming me and saying, hey, we don't normally do this, but
We're gonna gatekeep the
okay.
shit out of you.
Yeah, yeah, gatekeepers is what I was looking
Yeah.
for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the total jackassery, which we
Hmm.
do not. But whatever, whatever. Fine, we'll take our
Hmm.
ball and we'll go somewhere else. But
Hmm.
Reddit, find us, follow us there. Also on Twitter, that's our official Twitter direction there. Give a wave hi. And if you like to read a little bit something a little bit more heavy, maybe and medium grade too. I do my ApeIt.Ink thing there, and then I'm also on Twitter.
Hmm.
And then also the Yats there, all the good
Hmm.
things. And I
You
think
might get some hot takes from Mike on those.
no, absolutely. That's why I give fair warning. The first, the last, Nerdom is our fun space. That is our lighthearted, just what we want to see you do kind of thing. Occasionally, we'll toss out a grenade, but Thomas and Tom and I are very poor on whipping, finding a whipping boy and beating the hell out of it. But that might change. Not necessarily the hard edge to that,
Hmm.
but per se. But like
Yep.
we're getting our feet here on YouTube, and like we'll catch a wave. Like if there's the acolyte, and there's something to my parody video took off on my private channel or excuse me, I keep saying private personal channel, my SofaKingJewish channel, and I covered that on our main thing, but. That was fun to do. It was more of
Hmm.
like a practical exercise in how to make a short for anything else, but very very milk toast,
Hmm.
parody. But as it
And
were,
yeah, and I think yeah, there's that term that's bandied about. I think it lesser nowadays, but influencers. We're not really
nope.
influencers. I've come up with the new term. I think we named our fans as nerditos a while back. But
Yep.
I see us as nerdfluencers.
Love it, love it, absolutely. Well, I think we're coming up here to the end. Tom,
Hmm.
any other parting shots that you want to give to, or thumbs out, thumbs up, thumbs out, for anything?
No, I think it's appropriate since we're talking horror that I reintroduce Papa Emeritus from. He's came to visit me. If you're a big Ghost fan, But yeah, I've been enjoying having him hanging around. You'll probably see him in the background with my other dolls, kind of chilling. But there's another one. I'm kind of he dresses up as a different Pope type character, and there's a doll of him as well. So I'm kind of debating. They're big expensive, but I debated on a week for trying going back and forth. But yeah, he kind of won me over. I had to get him. There's also It's also, you know how big a action figure fan I am. There's a Super 7 action figure of him that I've been kind of tempted by. That comes out in February. There's pre-orders right now. It's like, well, I could probably wait till February and get him then. But yeah, it's real cool looking. Also, one last thing. I know I'm a media guy. I'm all into Blu-rays and 4Ks and whatnot. I got to say that maybe we'll give you the links here in the description. July is sort of like the midpoint of the year, and a lot of times they do the Christmas and July stuff. They do a bunch of sales, and that's no exception for physical media. So if you go into Barnes and Nobles or go on Criterion's website, and Amazon also picks up the discounts from those on a lot of the titles as well. So if you're a Amazon cuck, you could go there as well. But Criterion always does throughout the year their 50% off sale off of their Blu-rays and 4Ks. So if you've been kind of debating over a 4K there, their sales there. Kino Lorber, which does a lot of great stuff. They have the Man with No Name trilogy on 4K. They've got their sales going on. I think Vinegar Syndrome's got their Christmas in July sale that's coming up to look forward to, and I think Arrow Films hasn't done one yet, but they probably will. But yeah, keep a lookout for those sales, and like I said, I'll throw up some links for those as well on this. Just FYI for those physical media people out there that may be watching.
Awesome. Well, I think we're coming up here to the end, and we'll have those links in, as well as also links to the previous shows where we covered X and Pearl. And tell us what you guys think. Were you even aware that this was a trilogy? I think you might be surprised if you dip a toe in.
Yeah, and if you didn't, check them out. They're great.
All right.